Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Yeah. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked? Here we go. Your dial is set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class today. Thank you for being a member of the class. I look at all of you as students and instructors and students rising to become instructors. I don't think of anyone who is paying attention to what we do as a listener. I don't have a very high regard for listeners. I think of them as sports fans, guys who kind of just watch and then go home. But someone who's in the class as a student or an instructor, now that's someone who wants to take the information and learn more, do more research, and act on it. That's what a student is. I'm a student. I'm also an instructor. Guineith Isaacs is with us live. She is a student and an instructor. Welcome, Guineith.
Hello, Vincent. How are you this morning?
Very well. And your phone sounds much, much better. Not quite landline quality, but much better. Guineith, would you say that what I said was accurate, that we are, those of us who are instructors are also students?
Yeah. We never, ever stop learning. Mm-hmm. We are learning something new every day. And, even today I went out and, I went into town. I had a mission today. And that mission was to get a cell phone that actually works where we live. Because where we live is quite a way out in the countryside. And in Australia, the main telephone company here and the telephone regulator has a system called Blue Tick, which means that this phone will work in remote rural areas. And this is a Blue Tick phone, and it's what a lot of people would consider to be a dumb phone, meaning that it actually has a keyboard, and it's not it hasn't got a touch screen. It actually has physical keys that you actually physically depress from 1 to 9. And it has a star, and it has a hash, and it has a little, menu key at the top, like all mobile phones used to have. And it doesn't have as much functionality, but guess what? It does what I want it to do. It makes calls. And you know something? Yeah. I went that route because I was set up with touch screens breaking on me. Mm-hmm. I thought, for crying out loud, I'm buying a new cell phone every few months because I drop them accidentally. And we live on a farm. It's not a lot of soft surfaces around here. I mean, there's a bit of grass and all that, but probably if it drops, it's going to drop on a rock. And, I don't mean to drop them, but, it's just what happens. And the thing is that a phone with actual physical buttons has a higher chance of surviving such a fall and you still being able to make calls with it than a touchscreen. Mm-hmm. Because if you drop your touchscreen phone, there's a good proportion of a chance that you are going to be able to absolutely bust your phone and not be able to use it and have to write it off. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yeah. I used to have a cell phone. I used to have one of those flip phones with the keypad that you're talking about many years ago, and I don't have a cell phone anymore, and I've decided that I am going to drop off from having one. Now, in my case, I have a landline, and if I need to make a phone call, I have to go back to the farmhouse. It's as simple as that. I can't make that phone call no matter where I am. I can't receive phone calls no matter where I am. which is a really good thing for me because I get interrupted less. Let me give you an example. Last night, I was on a scaffold. I was 2 sets of scaffold high on a ladder on top of it. So I was up maybe 15 feet in the air. And I was finishing the ceiling. I'm trying to finish the ceiling of a room in the house, spackling and so forth. Well, a phone call came in for me. And Mrs. Finelli answered the phone, and she said, "It's for you." And I said, "Okay, good. I'm on the scaffold." Which means, would you ask that person to call back? And when I'm off the scaffold. Now, so what I'm saying is, for me, I'm able to get more things done because I'm not tied to answering the phone. Now, if I had a phone in my pocket, I might have answered the phone and then been unable to finish the spackling, which is a time-sensitive job because you've got the mud, it's drying while you're trying to apply it. And so that's not the kind of job that you can do when you're talking on the phone. At least I can't. So here's what I've decided to do. I have decided, and this might frost some people, but here's what I've decided to do. New policy here at the farmhouse. I am not going, we have a computer that is centrally located in the kitchen. And what I would do is I would walk by the computer and check the news. And I'd go out and work on some equipment and come back in, check the news. Check the email, check the news, check the email, check the news. And I realized that I am wasting so much time doing that I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm not going to read the emails. I might read them once a day, maybe every couple of days. I don't need to check email every day. If someone really needs to get in touch with me, they'll call me. And if they call me and I'm not by the phone, they can leave a message and I can call back in many instances, except I can't call you back because I don't have a way of calling outside the continental United States. But so I'll check the email, every couple of days, and I'm not going to read any email from anybody I don't know. It's as simple as that. I'm not going to get sucked into that trap of being at everyone's beck and call. What do you think about that, Guineith? Do you think that's selfish, or you think it's okay?
Actually, I'm thinking that I might start doing that myself because for me, the internet has been necessary, but it's also been a massive, massive trap for me personally, and because you do get sucked into it,
and I think about
it's
what
a
Mark
huge time waster.
Yes, and I think about what Mark Zuckerberg said. He called the people who use Facebook a bunch of dumb Fs, and there's a couple, 3 letters after the word F. That's his quote. Okay, so he's saying that his customers are a bunch of dumb 4-letter words. Well, here's how I look at it. I used to have Facebook, and I only used it for the purposes of saying, here's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, here's who the instructor is, and here's what we talked about. And so I would do, tomorrow, here's what it's going to be, and then I would do, here's what we did. That's it. And we had about 5,000. The maximum number of friends that you could have was 5,000. We were like within, 20, 30, 40 of 5,000. Now, are they really friends? No. Do I know them all? Of course not. So here's the point of that. And this is a caution to you, Guineith. Let's say someone gets arrested. Now, I'm just hypothesizing here. Someone gets arrested, and of course the cops go right to Facebook. So let's see what these posts on Facebook are. Oh, this guy likes AR-15s. And this guy commented about how he was target shooting with his AR-15 and how he got a nice scope and ammo, 62 grain ammo instead of 55, and it shoots better, and reloading, and on and on and on. So now we've got a list of friends who you may or may not even know, who are posting on your Facebook page because they have a Facebook page. So now you have this network, and the police, the government people those types, can put together a whole list of people that they believe are your friends that say things that you have no control over. So now you can be, if you're hauled into court for whatever reason, traffic ticket, oh, I see, you are an anarchist in their term, not just without rule, but you are looking for overthrow. You are one of them. We're going to have to be a little more harsh on you than we would be for someone who is not like you, because we know who your friends are, because you say they're your friends, and they say you're their friend. And that's what Facebook does. These are your friends. You confirm that you're friends with these people, whom you don't even know. So I think it's dangerous to be on Facebook. I really do. So I threw Mark Zuckerberg overboard a couple years ago. I don't want anything to do with that guy because he's collecting information on every one of us. Gwyneth, did you see what I meant by when I connected those dots?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. The only thing is that if I completely drop off the radar off of Facebook, there's certain people going to get really, really, really worried about me. And there are dead man switches operating on me. And these friends are on Facebook. So, maybe they're my Facebook friends, maybe they're not my Facebook friends. But they keep an eye on my profile. And if my profile suddenly went dead, then they would start to get really, really worried about me. And I don't want them to get worried about me. And so, sorry, it's just the phone dropped. Are you still there?
Yep, we're here.
So that's why I have to stay active on Facebook.
No, I understand.
Okay? But I am very, very judicious with what I post on Facebook. And getting more careful about what I post on Facebook as time goes on, because of these reasons that you just mentioned. It's I'm aware that there are other people on Facebook who are watching me, and they are hostile to me. So I would personally regard it. Oh God, help me! As being a double-edged sword. Okay, I'm just going to
right.
keep
on. Why don't you just put that thing down and talk into it?
It's okay. It's actually leaning on a window ledge.
Okay.
Because that's how I get the signal. I live in a mud brick house, so I can't just wander into the middle of the room with it. But it's okay, and once I get it balanced properly, it'll be fine. But yeah, that's the issue with me and Facebook. Okay.
Well, let's talk about coupons for a second. Let's tie some of this together. So I was looking at this bag. I happened to see a bag that Burger King packages their hamburgers in, and on the bottom of the bag it said, "Download our app," as in application for a cell phone, smartphone. And I happened to mention that to our son, and I said, our boys, and we were having dinner, and I said, I got a question. On a Burger King bag, it says, "Download our app." What's that mean to you? And when we come back, I'll tell you what that means. And this is a little frightening to me. Actually, it's terrifying to me. And it's just one more reason why you don't want to do it. Or any other app. Yeah. We'll be right back with Guineith Isaacs live in Australia. Guineith Isaacs is with us, and we're taking a little detour and talking about being tracked, being spied on, and what you might want to know about what maybe people in your house are doing with their smartphones. So this bag said, "Download our app." It was a Burger King bag that I happened to see. And if you download their app, you can get offers. Maybe discounts on the alleged food items that they sell. Well, there's a time limit on them, so if you decide to act on that discount, that phone-based coupon, if you will, there's a timer, like 15 minutes, and then it expires. So they want you to hurry, hurry, hurry. Well, who else offers these? Well, Burger King does, Wendy's does, Steak and Shake does, Little Caesars does. So a whole bunch of companies that have these, McDonald's, they have these apps for your phone. And if you think about it, how silly is that? But let's go a little deeper. And here's why people are doing it. So how many people have installed the Burger King application for the smartphone? 5 million. 5 million people.
Wow.
Yeah. 5 million people have installed it. Now what happens is Burger King, these apps, and I'm not sure of how all of them work, but here's what can happen. An app on a phone, the phone knows your GPS location, and it transmits it to the cell tower. So they know where you are. So if you're approaching a Burger King or you're within a couple miles, you can get an offer from Burger King because you're near there. Or Wendy's or Steak and Shake or McDonald's or Little Caesars. So what used to be an advertisement that would come in the newspaper or in a flyer in your mail that would say, hey, buy one, get one free, or buy two, get one free, or get free fries with your hamburger, whatever it was, you would just cut that out, turn that in. But the company, the Burger King company or Wendy's or McDonald's or whoever, didn't know who you were because you weren't required to put your name, address, and phone number and email on the back of that coupon. But now they know your name, address, phone number, email address, cell phone number. They know all this and your location. And so they can track who you are, what you bought, when you bought it, where you bought it, and follow you around. And third parties can buy that information. So now this information is really valuable because for me, they're not interested in me because I don't have a phone and I don't have an app that says I eat at Burger King or Wendy's or Steak and Shake or Little Caesars or whatever. So what they're doing is they're literally tracking you. And it's a coupon, but it's a coupon with information about you. And I resent that. So that's just one more reason not to have a cell phone, a smartphone, and one more reason not to have these apps loaded. So we're finding out that these apps all kinds of apps are tracking you. Like you can get this horoscope app, and it'll tell you what your daily horoscope is. Isn't that great? It's all free. But it's taking information about you, and they need to know your date of birth in order to do your horoscope. So now they know even more information about you, and they sell it to third parties. And then people have these apps on their phone that track, that tie to their wrist type device that tracks their health. You know, blood pressure, heart rate, things like that. And that gets transmitted to the cloud. So now we know how healthy you are. We know when you're taking a brisk walk. We know that you're on the sidewalk. We know you're walking from your office to McDonald's. We know that because we know where you were working. We know where your butt was sitting for a couple hours. We know when you go to the bathroom because we know where the bathroom is. This thing is tracking within a couple feet of where you are. So we know when you're at work, we know when you're in the bathroom, we know when you're at the water cooler, we know when you're in the elevator, we know when you're walking down the sidewalk to Burger King or Wendy's or whatever it is. We know where you are. When I say we, I mean they. It's crazy. And people are paying to be tracked. And some people say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I don't care. Really? They've lost their minds. Gwyneth, when we come back, would you comment on that, please?
Absolutely.
Does this bother you?
I'd love to.
Does this bother you as much as it bothers me?
I don't have any of these loyalty programs operating.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why after the break.
Yeah. And who's being loyal to who? Are they being loyal to you? I don't think so. We'll be right back. Class, just a quick housekeeping announcement. Tomorrow, between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m. in the evening, Thursday, I'm going to be the instructor on republicbroadcasting.org. I've been invited, along with Steve Elkins, to fill in for John Statmiller, the owner of the network, and it will be a USA Prepares broadcast. I'll be on the hot seat, and we'll be talking nonstop about my book. And I don't know how else to call it other than, and I really dislike it when authors say, buy my book, buy my book. Well, you can't buy my book. It's not available. It's just a bunch of notes of things that I do and the way I do them, which are probably different from what most people do. So I'm going to be talking about how I do things, and I think better. And I'm not trying to brag. I found out better ways of doing lots of things. And I'm going to teach that tomorrow. I've got probably 40, 50, 60 items. I don't think we'll get through very many of them, but it's going to be me on the hot seat talking about the way I do things tomorrow on republicbroadcasting.org from 6 to 8 p.m., 2 hours of tips, tricks, and the way to do things better. Probably things that you might not have considered. And I'm serious about that. So that I just want to make that announcement. Guineith, you and I were talking about loyalty apps, cards, those kinds of things.
Okay, yeah. I've actually got a special perspective on this. I don't know if you knew this, but I used to be a corporate PA, corporate personal assistant, to a department store executive. And this department store executive happened to be my cousin, and she was in need of a PA, and I was in need of a job. And we got on well together anyway, so she decided to employ me as her personal assistant. And I worked as her personal assistant for a couple of years. And so I got to see the inside workings of a department store. And this particular department store had a loyalty program. And I got to see the reason why they had the loyalty program. And the reason why they had the loyalty program, the reason why every department store has a loyalty program, is to track its customers and their buying habits. If you have a credit card with your favorite department store, if you have a loyalty program, here certain airlines in Australia have something called Flybuys, where you get points for shopping at a certain supermarket, and you can use those points towards purchasing airfares with this certain airline. And all of that is used as a foot in the door for them to track your purchases, for them to track you. So don't be in any illusions about it. That 10 or 15% discount is just the bait in the trap. I can absolutely assure you of that firsthand, you know. And yeah, I thought, wow, gee, that's pretty sneaky. And they were good people, the executives of this department store. They weren't out to rip anybody off. They actually sought out the highest quality product, and it was a high-end department store, and they wanted to look after their customers, but they also wanted to track their buying habits. And that was the object of their loyalty program. It's the object of every loyalty program. And so if I am ever asked if I want to have any part in any loyalty program, survey, customer discount, coupons, apps, or whatever, my answer is always going to be, no, thank you. I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense, Vince?
It does. It does. I'll tell you what I did, and maybe it wasn't very nice of me, but I knew what they were doing. So there's a supermarket chain, but it's a small supermarket chain. They don't have a lot of high technology. Like, they didn't have the cameras with the facial recognition when I did what I'm about to tell you at that time. So what they would do is they'd have two prices on the shelf of the supermarket. One price is if you did not have a loyalty card, and the other price was if you did have a loyalty card. So I would go to the customer service section, and what they wanted was your email address, your name and your email address. So I would say, okay, so you need an email address? Yes. And you need a name? Yes. So I would give them an email address. I'd make it up. And I would give them a name, and I'd make it up. So, for example, the names that, and I had lots of names, because they asked for a name, and I'd give them a name. I'd give them many names, because I kept using different loyalty cards. I'd go back after a couple of visits, and I get a new one, and then I get a new one, and then I get a new one. And so there wasn't a history that was very long with each one of these cards. And then sometimes I would ask the cashier, I'd say, geez, I forgot my loyalty card. She said, well, use mine. Okay, great, thank you. And so they had a loyalty card for people who forgot their loyalty card, just to get them through the cash register, because they didn't want to put all the stuff back that you'd be paying a higher price for. They knew that you'd say, well, you know what, if you're going to sell it for $2 instead of $1, I don't want that and this one, and I don't want the other one, and then half the cart would be emptied out, right? So I would give them names that you could not pronounce. And let me just give you a couple examples. So first name, Eclbalc. Now, I don't know how you'd pronounce it. Eclbalc. Last name, Mestopicr. Mestopicr. Another first name.
Topical.
Another first name, Ripct. Lots of vowels. Last name, Rolgcm. Rolgcm. And of course that would be at Yahoo, at Gmail, at AOL.com. Okay? And so lots of names, all bogus, because I would say, you want a name. You want a name here? Yeah. And you want a last name here? Uh-huh. You want an email address? Uh-huh. They didn't say mine. They said A. So I give them one. And that's the way I did it. And I would keep changing them and changing them and changing them. And then pretty soon that loyalty card thing kind of just disappeared. So there's no need to do that. But what you can do, and it's getting more and more difficult, is to have aliases on your own credit card accounts. So, for example, I do. I have lots of different names that I use on my credit cards. It's my account. It's not like there's no fraud involved. I just call up the credit card company and ask them for another card, and they'll say, okay, what name? And I'll give them that name. Now, eventually, some credit card companies have called me and said, Mr. Finelli, you have all these cards on your account. We don't believe these are people. Real people. And then I'd say, oh, so have you had any problems with the bill getting paid? No. Is there any fraud involved? No. So these cards that are issued, you don't have any problem with. Well, yeah, but we don't believe these are real people. So eventually we hit a stalemate. And I said, close my account. I don't need you guys. So who do you work with? Right now, it seems that Discover is the best credit card bank to work with. Discover. At least that's, in my opinion, as of the last time I've dealt with them. They don't give me any problems. And I've been a Discover member almost since the beginning. I've had, cardholder, I guess I should say, not a member, cardholder, customer. So, Bank of America, not so good. UMB, that's a Missouri-type bank, miserable, absolutely horrible. And I got to tell you, Guineith, the middle-aged women who have jobs in positions where I have to do business with them, they're hard to deal with. They're not very, I don't know what it is, but something about middle-aged women, they're more angry than others. Have you noticed that, or is it just me?
You know something, Vincent? I think I know why. Because if you look into the details of these middle-aged women, I'm a middle-aged woman.
I know you are. I know you are.
But I'm not difficult to deal with because I've had a husband and I've had a family. Mm-hmm. These middle-aged women who are difficult to deal with, 20 years ago when they were in their early 20s, mid-20s, they bought the feminist lie hook, line and sinker. And they flogged their guts out to build themselves a career, and they put off marriage and they put off having children. I graduated from college, and then I went on to being a full-time mum. And I've had a harder life, but I believe that I was a good stepmom to my stepchildren, and I was a really good mum in very, very adverse circumstances to my own two boys. You know, my husband died when my youngest son was 3 months old, and I've had a really, really difficult time of motherhood, and yet my boys are fine, upstanding gentlemen, and I'm happy. But these women have bought into the feminist lie. They put off marriage, they put off having children, and now they're my age. They've never had a love relationship that's been any good, and they've never had children. And maybe they've got 2 or 3 or more abortions in their history, and they're having to deal with the internal guilt and the regret and the shame and the hate of themselves. I'm talking about their soul person. Their spirit man or their spirit woman feels angry at their flesh, human person self because they've destroyed their own future. And they become angry and they become bitter and they regard it as being everybody else's fault, and they can't handle the fact that actually it's all because of them. And they will not take responsibility for their own actions. Does that make sense, Vincent?
It does. And I remember when Mrs. Finelli and I were, had just entered the workforce, and our salaries were, virtually neck and neck. So whoever got the latest raise, that's the one who made a little bit more money until the next raise came out. So I would be ahead, she'd be ahead, I'd be ahead, she'd be ahead, and so forth. And this went on for years. And then ultimately we decided to have a family. We had some goals. We had some financial goals. We had some achievements I said, I'll tell you what, we can get married, but I'd like to have X amount of money in the bank, each one of us, same amount. We each have to own our own cars outright. We each have to finish our education outright, and I think just one other thing. And we achieved all those things, and we got married. And when we decided to have children, she quit. She quit working, and the university, would send around, hey, what are you doing now? So I filled it out for her, and I said that she has received her CHM. CHM, some people would say MBA, BS. She received her CHM. I'll tell you what that is. After Mrs. Finelli completed her education, and we were married and decided to have children, the university wanted to know, so what are you doing now? It's a great way of hooking you into, look at me, look at me. And then they hook you into, well, you need to give money to the university's, fund. So I just filled out the, what she was up to lately. And I said, she earned her CHM. And that stood for Certified Housewife and Mother. And I believe that there's no higher, better, and more important calling for a wife than becoming a mother. And that happened over 3 decades ago when I did that. And I mean that. And Hillary Clinton, doesn't like the idea of, making cookies and raising children. I mean, that's not important. What's important is, is fleecing the public. At least that's my impression of Hillary Clinton. So I really think that the most important thing that a wife can do is to be the person who bears the children and who is instrumental in raising the children, while the father is the one who provides, protects, and defends, and also participates in raising the children. So it's not like mom, everything is placed on mom's lap. It's mom who is there at home, spending those formative years with the children, while dad is out working. But then when dad comes home, he spends time with the children. How does that set with you, Guineith?
I would tend to absolutely agree with you. And with me, it's been really unfortunate. I've had to do both tasks. I've had to be that nurturing role, but I've also had to be kind of the one who is protecting the family as well, because my husband died. And there's a lot of women who, for one reason and another, they find themselves having to raise their children on their own, mostly women, some men. And do you know something? It is not easy. It's not impossible. It's perfectly possible. But that requires your absolute dedication. And, you know, you can't go out and have a full-time career, really, and do that unless you've got a handy grandma in the background. But even then, it would have to be a matter of life and death before you went out and, you know, had a career instead of, you know, being a parent to your children. It's not something that you should say, well, I can have my career and I can raise my children later. No, you can't raise your children later. You have to raise your children when they're little. And if you don't raise your children when they're little, they are going to resent you not being there for the rest of their life. And that's just the truth of it. If you are a single parent out there in the class, you have to absolutely make up your mind that you are going to dedicate your life to being the best mum or the best dad possible for your children, okay? Because you only get one hit at this, and the stakes are really, really high because this is the next generation of humans, and this is your posterity. This is your genetic line going forward into the future. This is your immortality, okay? And what are you going to do with that immortality of children? That's your genetic immortality. What are you going to do with it? Are you just going to chuck it on the sidelines, or are you going to, you know, really do the best to be the best parent that you possibly can be? And there's no way around it. You can't do that if you are not physically there for your children. You just can't do it, you know. And, you know, when they get older, then you'll have the chance to be able to go out and, you know, go and find a job if you want to then and begin to reestablish yourself in the workforce. And that might not be possible because by then you might be in your late 40s or early 50s. And but you have to really think to yourself, where do I want my children to be? What do I want them to think of me when they're in their 20s and in their 30s and they are, you know, getting established in their own lives? And what are they going to think about me as a human being? They're not going to care about your career. What they're going to care about was mum there for me, or was dad there for me? Okay? And I think that is, I absolutely agree, that is the most important job in the whole universe, is being a mum especially, or being a dad if you're a single dad, because your children don't have anyone else except for you. And this is your posterity going on into the future pretty well forever. Does that make sense, Vincent?
It does. And I have never seen a gravestone that said he wished he spent more time at work. Class will be right back right after the top of the hour news and commercial announcements with Guineith Isaacs, live in Australia. Guineith Isaacs is with us live in Australia, and we've been talking about telephone apps, tracking, spying, how our privacy is eroding. People are paying for their own privacy to be invaded. It's over the top crazy, if you ask me, and I don't want any part of it. And I mentioned that I'm flat out not going to pay attention to the news the way I used to. I'm not going to be sucked into that trap. I'm not going to be reading, checking to see if there's new article. I don't care. Here's the way it is. And you shouldn't either, class, in my opinion. You see, there's nothing you can do about the political scene. There's nothing. If you think you can influence what the president does, I think you're mistaken. He is surrounded by people who are highly paid to coerce him, to sway him, to entice him, to mislead him into doing the wrong things. So we're outnumbered and we're outgunned, and they're using our money to do it. So that's not going to work. Corporations are not going to pay attention to you. They're so big that they can get away with building defective products, not honoring warranties, and just saying, you know what, we don't care. Sue us. Go ahead. That's where we are. Congress doesn't work for us. Senators don't work for us. Mayors don't work for us. It's all, everybody has his own agenda, and they're looking out for them first. We can't make much happen. So because of that, I've realized this. I came to that sad conclusion that I can't fix it. So I'm not going to try. I'm just going to do my farming. Farming is number one. Farming pays the bills. Radio doesn't pay the bills. Radio is something I enjoy doing, but it doesn't pay the bills. So I got to tell you that if I were drowning and I said, hey, we're financially drowning, we're going to lose the farm, y'all help me out? I don't think too many people would pitch in and help me out. So number one for me and my family is me and my family. We're going to protect the farm. Radio comes second. And news, that's way down on the list. Emails, way down on the list. Now, I will take care of our friends, and I'll help our friends, and I'll help our instructors, and I'll help our faculty, and I'll help students who identify who they are. But when I get emails that I don't recognize, I'm not responding. If I get phone calls that say blocked, and I don't know who it is, or phone calls that say private number, I'm not going to respond. Unless I know it's Guineith. Other than that, I'm not responding. Guineith, I'm serious about this. It's out of control.
That's right. You're absolutely right. And the thing is that we are heading into the biggest systemic collapse that has ever been on the history of the world. We are heading into what the Bible calls the days of Noah and the days of Lot. These days were prophesied a very long time ago by Jesus Christ himself, and you can read all about where he talked about it in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 24, and the Gospel of Luke, chapter 17. And Jesus said, here are some quotes from Jesus Christ. He said, many will be offended. So how many offended people do you know out there? Zillions.
Oh, geez. Absolutely.
Many will be offended. How's that for a prophecy?
Class,
every time I read that, I go, man, he knew what he was talking about.
He did, but he forgot threatened and harassed.
Well, it's like this. He went on to say, many will hate each other. People hate each other. He said, fathers will turn against their children, children will turn against their parents. You know, brothers and sisters will all turn against each other. The love of the great body of people will grow cold because iniquity will abound. And how did Jesus define love? He defined love by wanting to help one another. And unfortunately, that's happening to all of us. Our love is growing cold towards people where, 20 years ago we would have helped them. And now we just don't care. I don't care. You don't care. And we're the good ones. We're the people who have it in our hearts or, to want to help people. And we scarcely want to help people. How is it for people who really don't give two hoots about other people? They really don't want to help people. You and I are not into just, you and I sort of, and others like us, sort of do have a bit of a heart to help people. Otherwise, we wouldn't be on air. We wouldn't be trying to wake people up. But you know what? People are settling into two camps. And Jesus said that this would happen. And it's settling into the devil worshippers are going to the left hand, and the godly people, the ones who want to know Jesus and God and who believe in heaven and about the cross, that Jesus died for their sins, they're going to the right-hand path. And that is what Jesus said. He said that the goats will go to the left. You know, I've had goats. I'll tell you about goats. Goats are stubborn. Goats are rebellious. And goats stink. Male goats in rutting season urinate all over themselves. They stink. They think they're wonderful, but they're vicious. They'll knock you down if you turn your back on them for 2 seconds, and they'll destroy your property. That is what the people on the left are like. And sheep, from what I've seen of sheep will just mostly just graze peacefully in the paddock and not bother anyone. But goats are just nothing but trouble, Vincent. And that's how it's settling out. And Jesus knew what he was talking about. And if there's anyone in the class who hasn't given their life over to Jesus Christ, I know that you have. I know that I have. If there's anyone in the class who hasn't, you better get on Jesus' team right now, because things are settling out to the devil worshippers over there and the Jesus people over there. And it doesn't matter about Catholic or Protestant, that doesn't matter. What matters is Jesus Christ on the cross. And if you believe that he died for your sins, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what church you go to. It really doesn't. You know, if you believe that Jesus died for your sins, and if you turn your life over to him, then you belong to him. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And I've been thinking about what you've been saying as you've been saying it. And we've been led astray. So, for example, I've been saying for a long time, people like them. Okay? Meaning people like people who have the same values. And it makes a lot of sense to me. Years ago, when groups came to America, they kind of settled within the same culture. So there was a little Ireland. There was a little Germany. There was a little Italy, and so forth. Chinatown. That's what they did. And I think it makes perfect sense. And then when a Chinese person who grows up in America, an American of Chinese descent, is looking for a spouse, they're looking for someone of the same culture. Makes perfect sense to me. Okay? Same with Italian, same with Irish, same with English, same with German, same with all, Polish, everybody. Makes perfect sense. However, if you watch TV, and blacks with blacks, okay? If you watch television, you will see that it's almost like an advertisement. You too, as a black man, can marry a white woman. You too, as a white man, can marry a black woman. You can marry, and it's being endorsed, fostered, advocated, and yet it doesn't always work out too well because of the culture differences. Okay, when I married Mrs. Finelli and when I dated Mrs. Finelli, my mom and dad didn't say, "Hey, Vin, y'all go get an Italian." Nobody said that, but I knew that what was important was the same socio-economic values. I was looking for a person who understood money the way I did, who had an education similar to what I had, who, if I grew, in the corporate world, could grow with me, someone I would not be embarrassed of, going to that corporate Christmas party, someone, who just wouldn't make a fool out of herself and me at the same time, someone who could hold up the other end of the board. And all of those things went into the equation as to who Mrs. Finelli should be. And that's what our boys are thinking for who their Mrs. Finelli should be. And it's tough. It's really tough because there are so many people who have been damaged today by the media, thinking that, hey, I don't know if being a boy is such a good thing. Maybe I should be a girl, today, tomorrow. And what they're doing is they're flip-flopping. They have no clue because they've been damaged by the media. And then, so if you want to find a person like we did years ago, similar socioeconomic values, it's really tough. It's really tough because of the damage. And then if you look at more damage, The girls in high school, and I was a high school teacher, and I know that the female teachers, the middle-aged teachers would say to these young girls, here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to do what people who came through this class before you did. They got pregnant, they didn't get married, and their life was very, very difficult because they got pregnant in high school. And then that prevented their education. It made a lot of things very, very difficult. They were told this, but they didn't heed the warning. And I was talking with one of our boys a couple days ago. So what are some of your high school peers doing now? What are they doing? Almost all of them have had children. As a matter of fact, I don't think he can think of one who hasn't had a child. And I don't think he can think of more than one or two who's actually married with a child. So they were promiscuous and they were trapped. And that's what we're dealing with today. So who picks up the cost of all this? Well, those who are paying the bills. Those would be taxpayers, people who have jobs, who are being put underwater because they can't afford to raise their family and other families at the same time at the muzzle of a gun. Because if you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. And then you go to prison. And then you get fined. And it makes it even worse. So we are falling down. And I don't know the answer. But I do know that I need to take care of my family. And Guineith needs to take care of her family. And you need to take care of your family. First. That's the most important thing. Because you can't fix this problem. It is so big. It's 360 degrees. Everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. And people aren't paying attention. And I'm going to give you an example when we come back. I can't believe it, but I'm going to give you an example. Guineith Isaacs is with us. Okay, so here's how bad it is, class. So 1 in 4 millennials are keeping financial secrets from their partner. 1 in 4. We're talking about things like, a bad credit score, debt, those kinds of things. So 25% of millennials are keeping secrets from their partner. That would be someone who they're either married to or intend to marry. 1/3 of millennials say that they would break up with their partner because of a financial secret, such as a hidden debt or a bad credit score. So 1/3 of them would break up, and 1/4 of them are hiding financial secrets. That's crazy. When I had a computer manufacturing company in the Commonwealth of Virginia, I learned that husbands had separate banking accounts from their wives, and wives had separate banking accounts from their husbands. And they would say things like, well, that's his money, or that's her money. That's not our money, it's his or hers. That's crazy. You can't enter into a marriage and have financial accounts separate. She would have a job, so that's her money. He would have a job, that's his money. Well, who pays the mortgage note? Who pays the taxes? Who pays for the cars? Well, that's her money, so she bought whatever car she wanted. That's beyond stupid to me. And that's where we are. That's just a speck of what the problem really is. He wants to do whatever he wants, so he goes ahead and does it. She wants to do whatever she wants, so she does it. To the detriment of the family unit. And then you have the children watching this and they go, well, my mommy does it, my daddy does it, so I should do it. So we're falling down. I do not buy anything, nothing, without discussing it with Mrs. Finelli first. Now, does that mean I need permission? Absolutely not. But I think that I owe it to Mrs. Finelli to discuss whatever I would consider buying with her and get her agreement on it. Why? Because it's half her money. Now, did I work longer? Yes. Did I put more money into the pot? Yes. But if I had to pay her to raise the children while I was working during the day and she was taking care of them at night, she would have more wealth than I had. So it's a 50-50 kind of a thing. That's the way I look at it. We're both in it together. Fortunately, we're both alive. Gwyneth, you had you were dealt a tough blow when your husband died. But would you agree with what I said about not buying anything without an agreement with the partner, the spouse? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. My husband and I had joint bank accounts. Mm-hmm. And the few times that he made, most of the time we did discuss major purchases beforehand. But the few times that he went out and spent like $200-300 at a hit without telling me, I flew off the handle at him.
And you should
because
have.
I said, what did you do? And it was usually something frivolous like a pair of jeans, $200 or $300 pair of jeans for one of the children. And I would say, what did you do that for? And I wasn't nice in my language. You know, there was potty mouth and, and I flipped my lid and I flipped it on a public street corner for him going out and spending $200 or $300 on a pair of jeans for one of his children. And we had a lot of children, and this was just one of them. And I said, that was our food money for the week. At one time, we had 10 people in the household. And so I really had to do the budgeting for the food money pretty carefully. And it did cost about $200 or $300 a week in groceries just to feed us all. And that was my grocery money. And that was why I flipped my lid on a public street corner at my husband, and I only ever did it once. And, I don't know that he apologized afterwards. I can't remember if he did or not.
Did he only do it once?
My normal. What was that?
Did he only do it once?
I think he only did it once.
We'll be right back. Gwyneth, I'm in the studio here at the farmhouse, and I had a studio in another part of the farmhouse. It was too far away for me to be near the family during the day. And I wanted to be closer to the family, so we picked another room. And that room had not been finished. I still have a couple more rooms to finish in the farmhouse, meaning spackle and trim and paint. So when it came time to pick the color for the studio, and this might be referred to as my studio, but it's not my studio. It's a room in the house that I'm using as a studio. It belongs to the entire family. So everybody was in on the decision as to what color paint we would use in the studio, or the room that is a studio until I decide not to broadcast anymore. And then it'll go back to a dining room, for example. So even picking a color for the studio, which happens to be a color that's very close to what is known as Governor's Palace tan in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's kind of a light tan, light green, light brown. It goes with the curtains. It goes with the antiques that are in here. It goes with the decor. It goes with the rug on the floor. It all kind of matches it. But that was the color that the family selected. And that's the color it was. But it wasn't, I didn't say, hey, this is my studio and we're going to do what I want. That's ridiculous. The whole family lives here. And even though I spend more time in this particular room than anyone else, it's still the family's house. And that's the way I look at it. And for those who are me first, and they think that they should have their own account, they think that they should buy whatever they want, regardless of whether it's to the detriment of the family or not, they're making a huge mistake. And that's what I see happening. And as a result of that, I see young people who are rotten to their parents. I mean, I've seen and heard young people curse out their parents, their grandparents. I can't believe it. These are the people who raised them, and they get cursed out by their children. I wouldn't put up with it. I would not put up with it. But yet, people say, yeah, but I love him. Really? Really? I got to tell you, if I were in a position where a child yelled and screamed and cursed me out, I would have to say, I don't love that person. I don't have to love somebody. There's no law that says you have to love your children. And that person would not inherit anything. I mean, how many parents have heard their children say, I wish you were dead? That's something you don't recover from. When a child says, I wish you were dead, to his or her parents, that's something that leaves an indelible impression. That's the kind of thing you would remove somebody from your will for saying. There's not much worse you can say than that to your parents or your children. But yet, people say, and if I told the family, and I've said this publicly, if one of our children decides they're a homo, they're out of the will, period. That's it. That's not happened. But they would be, if it did happen, because they would be sacrificing the bloodline of the family. All those that came before them, all those that worked and slaved and sacrificed to get to where the Finelli family is today. Not that we're on top of the heap, we're not. We're just a hardworking American family. But for all of those who came before us and made it possible for us to be where we are, to make the decisions that we make, to throw that away, to be a homo, is unforgivable, in my opinion. And if one of our children said, hey, Dad, hey, Mom, guess what? They would be out of the will, and they would not be welcome home. For engaging in personal pleasure with a homosexual of the same sex in lieu of continuing the family line in a normal way. I feel bad for those who have heard from their children, hey, Mom, hey, Dad, I'm queer. I feel bad for them. And what's even worse than that, this is even worse than that. How can anything be worse than that? Well, there's something worse than that. It's when the child learns that Mom and Dad are breaking up because Dad has a boyfriend. That's worse.
Oh, my gosh.
I know.
Or Mom has
I know a young man that has happened to, and I feel so bad for him. And I'll tell you what, this young man that would come to the farmhouse, wonderful, wonderful young man. I can't say enough positive things about him. I really like him. And many years ago when he was in high school, I called his dad and I said, hey, I knew his dad. His dad and his mom were, living together. Everything was good. All the appearances were normal. And I said to his dad, hey, your son, he's on the slow bus. He's not a slow child. He knows a lot. The school has misdiagnosed him. They think he's not going to make it. He's not going to amount to anything. It's not true. He's a really smart young man. He needs to be encouraged. How about I help? No, it's okay. I'll be glad to help. No, it's okay.
Wow.
He'll be all right. And all at the same time, this dad, while having the appearances of being a normal dad with a normal wife and a normal family, was a homo. And he neglected his children in favor of his own personal pleasure. So when you hear me come out and say things against the homosexual revolution, I have evidence, proof to back up what I'm saying. I have seen the damage that it does to the family. And there are a couple guys in the village who are homos, middle-aged guys. And when somebody mentions them, the first thing they say is, they're homos, right? That's the first thing that people think. Now, why would they say that? Because it's wrong. It's immoral. It's me first. That's why they say that. They don't say, oh, what a great farmer, or what a great businessman, or what a great preacher, or what a great. They say, they're homos, right? That's what they say. Now, I think parents need to have this talk with their children and say, just because the public school says you too can be a homo, you'll destroy your life for that instant of pleasure, sick pleasure. Guineith, any comments?
Yeah, something. Looking back through, almost 400 years of past lives, okay? I never had children in any of those past lives, and I had 2 sons in this life. And, in some of those past lives, people thought that I was a homo, and it was only because homosexuality was so rife in those societies that it was actually safer for me and my partner to pretend that we were, because we would have been killed. If we'd come out as a straight couple, all of the homosexuals around us would have killed us. And that's the truth of it. And and it was Archie, it was my husband, who was my lover in those past lives. And, this is where society's head. People think that homosexuality is okay, it's good, blah, 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 that they're peaceful, happy people. They're not. They're not peaceful and they're not happy. They have a higher rate of domestic violence than straight couples. They have a higher rate of promiscuity. They have a higher rate of sexually transmitted diseases. They have a higher rate of relationship breakup and breakdown. And they're not happy people. There's, the rate of depression in middle-aged and old homosexual people is absolutely atrocious. It's, it's just really, really sad to see they're not gay. They're not happy people. That is the biggest propaganda lie ever. They are not gay. They're not happy. They are very, very unhappy people, by and large. And there's only a few rare exceptions where they maintain some semblance of happiness and normalcy, but who knows what goes on behind closed doors. You know what I mean, Vincent? Children are so precious. They're so immensely precious, You've got to realize that this is your genetic heritage going on into the future. And I say to my sons, this farm that we have, this 20 acres, is for you and your brother to be an inheritance for you and your children forever. Do not sell it after I'm gone. Continue to build it up. Continue to work the land. And I want for there, if I could come back in 300 years' time, I would want there to be a whole village of my descendants living on this land. That would make me really, really happy, that all my family would have somewhere to stay where they could say, this farm has been in the family for 200 or 300 years. That would make me immensely happy. And, I believe that it will happen because I had a dream one night and I saw Jesus in the dream and he showed me that that was going to happen. And, if people have gotten out of that way of thinking, there's still a lot of farms like that in Europe. There's farms around here that have been in the same family for 150 years. I know there's farms in America that have been in the same family for 200 and 300 years. And that's really, really precious. But people have, by and large, gone away from that way of thinking about the world. They're not interested in anything except their own immediate pleasure. Does that make sense, Vincent?
Yep, it does, and it's awful. And it's not just in homosexuality. It's in everything. If you watch the Black Friday sales on the internet, on the screen in the United States, people fighting over televisions. Really? They make plenty of televisions. You don't have to fight over a television. You don't have to fight over a toaster oven. You don't have to camp out in front of Walmart. It's insanity. But yet people are so greedy that they will do that. And they'll push and shove each other for a television. So that's just a quick update. Tomorrow, for 2 hours from 6 p.m. Central Time to 8 p.m. Central Time, I will be on the Republic Broadcasting Network, republicbroadcasting.org, and I will be sharing, I've got a list of, between 50 and 60 items. The way I do things, we'll never get to it all, but we may do it, a few more times. And I'm going to do the same thing on Friday, hour number 2 at USA Prepares. I'm going to be telling you about tips that I have learned, tricks that I have learned. Currently they're called hacks. I don't like the term hacks. They're not hacks. They're just better ways of doing things. I'm going to save you a lot of money. I'm going to teach you a lot of things, and it's just going to be me, hour number 2. But tomorrow, that's Friday, hour number 2 on Friday is just me. Hour number 1 is going to be Medicare, things you need to know, what a morass it is. We're going to teach you how to navigate it and how to come out alive. And also tomorrow is going to be 6 to 8 p.m. Steve Elkins and I are going to be on RBN talking about USA Prepares. Not the radio broadcast, but the preparedness of the radio broadcast. Gwyneth, do you have comments on anything you'd like to share with us today in the remaining few minutes?
Okay. In the remaining few minutes, I would like to plug my book, The Lover of the Pirate King, if that's okay with you.
Of course, of course.
It's a really, really good book if you want to get it for the best price. And if you have a Facebook account, you can send, or if you don't have a Facebook account, you can email me at Guineith, Guineith, @gmail.com. And if you live in the continental United States, the lower 48, I will be able to get a copy sent to you for just $10, $10 US, and you won't find a better price that for that book out there anywhere. And it's a really great book. And if you want to go to my YouTube channel, just go into YouTube and type in, actually, if you go into YouTube and type in Guineith Isaac, you'll actually get a bunch of USA Prepares broadcasts coming up from Ron Gibson's YouTube channel. But if you scroll down, you'll see some videos from my channel as well. And you can click through and you can get to my channel that way. Or it's Psychic Isaac, I think is the name of my YouTube channel. But yeah, I'm also working on a prequel to The Lover of the Pirate King, and it's probably going to be released in the next month or so on Amazon. And the reason why I go to Amazon is because for all their problems, they're about the only print-on-demand company out there that actually produces the book that they produce, okay? None of the others cut the mustard. But Amazon, you can be pretty sure that if you get a book from Amazon on print on demand, that they are going to, that it is actually going to be the book that you think that it is going to be, and most of the others that you won't. And yeah, there's a lot of problems, and yeah, they rip people off for their royalties. They rip me off for my royalties. That's why I say, please order directly from me. Either email me or if you have Facebook, go to Facebook and send me a message on Facebook. And, or you can go to, my author page on Amazon, and you can order it from there. And I also have a website, and you can order from there as well. It has a link through to the Amazon page. And my website is guineithisaacs.com. Okay? So any one of those ways is how you can contact me. But the best ways are guineith@gmail.com and to message me on Facebook. Those are the best ways. And you won't get a better price than ordering directly from me anywhere out there on the internet. And I know that you've read parts of the book. What is your comment on my writing skills, Vincent? What is your honest comment?
To be absolutely forthright, I have never read anything by anyone that's better than your writing abilities, capabilities, and technique. No one I've ever read is better at writing than you. Nobody. Period. And I mean
wow.
that.
That's quite a compliment.
Well, it's true. It's...
I've been reading books I've been reading novels since I was 9 years old, and the types of novels that I've been reading have been Robert Louis Stevenson, Arthur Conan Doyle, Jean Auel at AUEL, and these sorts of authors who are the real true greats of English literature. I want to read a book where I feel like I'm actually pulled into the world of the book, and where the world of the book is believable. And this is the type of book that I aim to write. Now,
Guineith, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being with us. Guineith Isaacs, live in Australia.